So here we are with Tim Stocker, and he's a tall man, so I have a few extra books on my table so that we can get his head into
down
camera.
as low as I can go.
He's actually sitting on the ground right now. Yeah, he's naked below the waist and he's sitting on the ground. So, Tim, tell me where you were born. How old are you?
I'm 34 years old, and I was, I know, and I'm
ready to lie down.
Just about. And I was born in Albury, in New South Wales. Yeah.
Oh, Albury Wodonga.
Yeah.
Oh, did you grow up there?
Yeah. I was there till.
Don't
sorry.
The table.
Yeah, I was there till I was.
There's this huge pile of books.
Yeah. I was there till I was like 18, and then I moved to Wangaratta for 2 years.
Oh.
After I finished school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and applied for a course in design and technology. I was going to become a design and technology teacher. But I didn't really feel like that was the thing I wanted to do, and Mum told me that the Wangaratta College of TAFE had a music program, and so I went down there for 2 years. And
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Did an associate diploma down there for a couple of years.
Did you see the jazz festival when you were a kid? Even when you were at school?
No, I hadn't heard of it until I got down to Wang. Yeah.
That's funny. But once you moved to Wangaratta, you saw the jazz festival?
Yeah.
And what was the first year that you saw it? Let me get some more water.
That would have been
we got a juggy.
Yeah, we got a jug.
Hello, viewers. Yeah.
First year would have been 97 that I went to the jazz festival.
I can't remember who would have came out then.
Yeah, I remember seeing
international artists.
I think who was there?
Arthur Blythe?
Vincent Herring.
Vincent Herring, yeah.
Yeah. Vincent Herring was one of the internationals. I think. Was that the year that Kurt was there? Kurt Elling was there. It's a long time ago, so I'm having trouble remembering.
Do you remember seeing Australian musicians? Did you see someone that inspired you to play the saxophone?
Not someone who. There were lots of saxophonists there that I enjoyed, but probably the highlight of that festival was seeing Tree play with Kevin Hunt and Steve Hunter and David Jones. That was kind of. I didn't really know what jazz was when I finished school. I played the sax in concert band and played Satin Doll in the jazz band at school, but didn't really know what it was. So I was kind of coming from more of a rock and pop background, and saw Tree play, and that was amazing to just see that those guys are all so technical on their instruments, and
that's what impressed you, the virtuosity of David Jones flying around a drum kit.
Yeah, and so that summer after Wangaratta, my friends who were at the course, we sat around drinking beer and singing along to the Tree record. So we kind of got into doing that.
Oh, are you still in touch with those people?
From Wang? Not
from the TAFE course?
Not really.
But you went as a group, did you, to see the gig?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, because I was living with them and going to school with them every day. I see some of them. There's on Facebook, of course. I see some of them and say hey every once in a while. Yeah.
Did they become musicians, those people?
Yeah, one guy has a little studio down in Melbourne.
Right.
That he does just some indie recordings on, does his own stuff as well. Most of the other people went off and did other trades. as far as I know.
And then you went to Canberra after that. Is that right? You went to
after that I went back to Albury and did a course in landscape gardening. Because again, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But by then I'd kind of hooked up with my teachers from Wang and was working every weekend doing weddings and gigs around Albury and the wineries like Rutherglen and
there was also a gig in Albury that cats used to go on.
Yeah.
That gig a couple of times.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
When I was in town, they were doing it at the Newmarket Tavern. Jazz Albury Wodonga, or I think it's changed its name now, run by Graham Cook. I used to go down every month. They had a visiting artist. So I'd go down and they'd have guys like I know Tree came back again a couple of times. Adam Simmons would come up. Julian Wilson, I saw him a bunch of times. Anton Delica.
I used to live with Anton Delica.
Oh really?
Yep.
Who else? Fiona Burnett. Bob Settergreen. Paul Williamson, the saxophone player, had come up with his Hammond trio. With Gil Askey, the trumpet player. So yeah, those guys had come through town, and whenever I had time, whenever they had time, I'd try and grab a lesson off them. Or
did you think about moving to Melbourne?
I did. I moved in, what year was it? 2000. Well, it would have been to start in 2000. I auditioned for both Sydney Con and VCA, and I went to Sydney for the audition, but sent a video to Melbourne. And I got put first on the waiting list for Melbourne, but then all their spots were filled, so I missed out that year. And then the following year, I switched it and went to VCA for an audition and sent a video to Sydney. And I was living down in Melbourne, going to a few jam sessions, and I wasn't really gigging, just moved in with my brother and was working in a bottle shop. Went down to Melbourne, and then early February I was talking to Mum and Dad on the phone. They said, we've got this letter here from University of Sydney. Do you think we should open it? And they opened it up and it said, you've been accepted to the Sydney Con. And so I had like 4 days to pack up everything, and so I actually moved to Sydney, and my horn was getting overhauled in a shop, so I moved to Sydney without a horn.
What horn were you playing then?
Playing tenor.
When did you start learning that?
I first I started on alto when I was 11. I started alto when I was 11, and then kind of started playing tenor not too long after, because I was probably one of the only kids who could hold it. And then later in high school I played baritone for the last couple of years, baritone and tenor. But then got to the con, and I remember it was big band auditions, and I didn't have a horn, and Gordon Brisker came over with this beautiful with this Selma tenor. This beautiful old Selma tenor that I kind of dreamt of holding, and he said, you can borrow my horn if you like. And for the big band audition, which was cool. But
what a lovely sweet man.
Gordon was really lovely guy.
So you got into the big band playing tenor?
So I got into in my first year I got into there were two big bands at the con. I got into the one big band. Into Dick's big band in first year, so it was cool with Nick Bowd and Carl Laskowski and Dan Waples, and who was the other tenor player? Jay Locke, I think, was the tenor player. It was fun.
So what year were you at the con then with those guys?
That was 2001, was my first year.
Oh wow.
I started late. I was 20, 21,
Mm.
21 when I started.
Mm. And did you see the terrorist attacks from Sydney on the television?
Yeah, yeah.
What did you think about that?
It was crazy. I was fast asleep and I got a phone call from bass player Rory Brown.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Man, wake up, turn the TV on." And so, yeah, didn't really know. And he's like, "Man, it's World War III. It's
Still over.
it's happening. It's the world's it's all going down." And yeah, it was just so I just sat there all night watching TV, and then
Really? Stayed up all night?
stayed up all night watching it, and then went to college for I don't know what I had the next morning, but went to college the next morning in a bit of a haze, and
At the con?
yeah.
And what was the vibe at the con?
I don't know, everyone was kind of just a bit
Shocked?
yeah. They didn't really know what to make of it. Like it was a huge deal, but I think everyone was just kind of, it was so far away that it didn't really seem real, and
Had you considered moving to New York at that point?
no.
No.
Mm. Mm.
So you went to the con in Sydney and you did a 4-year course?
Mm.
And somewhere along the line you met your wife.
That was
that in a bottle shop in Melbourne?
no, that was a while after. That was after the con. I'd been out of the con probably, what, 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Mm. Right. And then how long did you spend in Sydney before you came here?
All up, it was 10 years. A little over 10 years. We moved here in, where are we now? 2013. We moved here in 2010, end of 2010.
Is that something you regret? Would you prefer to just come straight after music school? Or
No.
Would you prefer to not go to music school at all in Australia? Or?
No. I never dreamed that I was going to go to music.
Live in New York.
Yeah, and I never dreamed that I was going to go to music school either.
Right.
I didn't. I just imagined that I'd end up being a teacher or something.
Mm.
And then I did the course in Wangaratta, and the teachers there kind of encouraged me and obviously saw something in me, and so I finished that and continued gigging with them. And then when I went to the con, my teachers really encouraged me as well. And
who taught you there? There's Gordon Briscoe.
So I started with Gordon. I did about a year with Gordon, and then I went to Col Lochman, which was great. He kind of took care of my sound. He's big on the famous Joe Allard.
All right, what's that?
It's all about overtones and shapes within your mouth, just to get the best, I suppose, most relaxed position.
It's like singing stuff.
Yeah. So
His sound's getting better and better, Cole, I think.
Cole, yeah, I haven't heard him in a long time.
Oh, it's just playing ballads just beautifully.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was fun with Cole. There were 3 of us, Kim Lawson, Mike Rivet and I, we were all in the year together. And we'd go out to Cole's place down in Maroubra, and one of us would get a lesson and the other 2 of us would sit, and he had a stack of videos that we'd watch of the whatever, like Dexter Gordon, or he just had a bunch of videos that he'd collected over time.
And he had that video of Alan Turnbull and
Joe Henderson,
and Paul Mac, stashed away down there. He's still on that street that runs down to the water?
Straight down to the water, yeah.
Lurline Bay's on the left. And
yeah, I forget the name of the street.
Yeah, I know that street.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember going to that house. I used to play with Lyle,
Oh yeah.
and I used to pick him up.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
Mm.
So after Cole, I then went to Dale for a while, Dale Barlow, and then in my final year, I studied with Judy Bailey 101.
And so, what did they? I mean, I haven't asked this to anyone. So, and all these interviews are going different ways. But what did they say about the business in Australia, your career, the value of what you were doing, your sense of self-worth in the long term? I mean,
they didn't.
Was it all just you were just getting instruction in the saxophone,
in playing music,
and playing
yeah.
jazz music, and playing music?
When we went through, there wasn't a business element at all. There was more of a business component at the TAFE course that I did in Wangaratta.
All right.
There was actually like a dedicated semester of where you went through little bits of copyright and management and what happens within a record label and that sort of thing. But at the con there was no talk of business. It was just like, this is how you play your instrument, this is how you play with other people. Go get them.
I mean, Mark Knock used to talk to me a lot about lots of other things other than music.
Yeah.
Spiritual stuff even.
Yeah, Judy was really good on that stuff with me. As was, I don't know, Gordon was great with that stuff as well. He got me to really relax on what I was doing. I didn't really have, I had a lot of trouble putting the theory and my ears together. I'd hear something and go for it, and then I wouldn't be able to quantify it enough to be able to do it again. And that used to really get me down. And Gordon would just say, "Man, don't worry about it. Just keep playing. You sound good." And he'd give me, like every lesson, he'd give me a piece of paper he'd say, "Oh, if it sounds good, write it down and then analyze it and work out how to do it and put it through the horn." And I think the biggest thing I got out of Gordon was that every morning we'd rock up for a 9 o'clock class, and he'd been in there practicing for an hour before we even got there. And then just playing alongside him, like trading fours on Abersols and things like that were great. And then Judy kind of turned my head around where if I'd be soloing and I'd play something that I didn't like the sound of, instead of kind of taking my horn out of my mouth and
going, fuck.
Yeah. Grunting or going, ah. She told me to start saying fuck yeah. So I'd play something and she'd go, fuck yeah. And I'm like, oh. And it just changed the direction of it.
That's nice.
Yeah. My mum won't like me saying that on
camera. Sorry, we're swearing on the World Wide Web.
Sorry, Mum. But yeah, it's just, yeah, so that, but in terms of business and that sort of thing, that the con didn't really have anything.
Judy Bailey played at my 21st birthday party.
Really?
And with Craig Scott and Ron Lemke.
Yeah.
I was still studying electrical engineering and at a bit of a loss as to what to do with my life. And with my parents in tow, me or my parents raised with the idea of becoming a professional jazz pianist, and she practically begged my parents to stop me.
Oh, really?
Don't let him do it. It's terrible.
Yeah,
the money gets worse every year.
Yeah.
Did anyone talk about any of that stuff at the con, or you didn't? It was
no.
You were just talking about music.
Just talking about music, yeah.
And have you had any lessons in America since you've come here?
Yeah, I've had a few. I had like Gary Smullian and Seamus Blake, and most recently Ben Wendell, had a lesson with him, which was cool.
Did you think about coming to school here, to music school?
For a minute. Yeah, there are a couple of factors that I didn't go down that path. Was the cost, and that I didn't really want to go back to school, and that I had been thinking of doing other things other than to take the pressure off music so that I could learn to enjoy it again.
Right.
Because I stopped. I made the decision to not teach over here. I'd kind of burnt myself out teaching.
You had a lot of teaching in Australia, right?
Yeah. Before I came over here, I had about 50 students a week.
Yikes.
Yeah. Which was exhausting. I had 2 private schools and
yikes.
a bunch of privates at home, and
You're teaching young children?
I was teaching everything from absolute beginners on clarinet and saxophone right up to like 50, 60-year-olds who decided they wanted to play.
Do you wish there'd been a class at the con that taught you how to teach very young children?
Like really young?
Well, 5 to 10.
I don't know. I've never thought about it.
It's something I've had to deal with in New York a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to make money in New York playing music.
Yeah.
And I've sort of found myself teaching very young children. And
teaching them piano or
piano,
general music?
Piano.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly difficult to teach young children.
I bet.
And I feel like it's almost like learning to play jazz. It's that hard, and you go through this sort of learning process of figuring out what works and what doesn't work, and I it would have been nice if I'd had a bit of, if there'd been even just one course, a semester of where someone who had experience,
yeah, there was certain
could tell you, or you could just watch a semester's worth of just, you watch a video of someone teaching a kid, someone that's really good.
Yeah, there's definitely the focus on at the con, the pedagogy. How do you say it? Pedagogy.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a big word.
Pedagogy.
I'm good at maths.
Was, I think, focused at definitely older people who older kids who needed to know a bit more. Yeah, I've never thought about younger kids. Like I did music from like clapping and singing at the Albury Conservatorium when I was really young, and I did violin.
So you were reading music very young?
No,
No,
all oral stuff. I'm even at the con. I was not a very good reader, not a very strong reader. It's something that I've always had to really work at.
What's your memory like? Is it good?
Depends. Yeah.
But your ears are good?
I think my ears are good. Yeah.
That's something I think about. Like, I feel like improvising is a memory problem. It's an ear problem and a memory problem as well. Somehow, like, remembering, just being able to hear other people, like even if you just wanted to imitate someone, just if you had a really good memory, if you could just hear it and remember it, that would make you better at it.
Yeah, definitely.
And I know that my upbringing, which was classical music, and really I learnt to read before I did anything else. And the teachers that I studied with were very anti the Suzuki method. They thought it was wrong, and it was all learning to read pieces. So I'm good at reading, but my memory's poor.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's from drinking too much beer as a child in Australia.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
another. I feel like that's a real issue for people
Yeah, I
in
think so.
Australia, that everyone comes through this sort of baptism of alcoholic fire at the moment. That
Yeah.
at the end of it, everyone's brain injured. You know.
Yeah. I'm not by any means advocating a legal drinking age of 21, but like the kids who go to school over here, they go to college and they're not able to go to bars. They can probably buy grog from the local liquor store if they want, but we can go to the pub. We can finish our lecture at noon and go and have a drink at the pub.
We used to go to the pub when we were at school,
Oh really?
and we would get away with it.
Yeah. See, I had friends when I was in year 12. I had friends who were 18. I was a year younger than everyone else at school. So.
Yeah.
But
even when we were 16, we were sort of going into bars and being served.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know. Maybe it's changed now. Maybe things are. But we knew that there's this place, this pub,
And they'll serve you.
and we knew that we could go in there and the guy gives a beer.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know about memory. I certainly wish I had a better memory. Just for there's so many tunes that I have known,
Which you can't remember now.
which I can't remember now.
Yeah.
And part of that is just
Because you don't play them.
exactly playing them regularly. I remember there was a moment. I remember I used to practice it at my house in Albury.
Yeah.
This is between Wangaratta and moving to the Con. Sorry, between Wangaratta and moving to Melbourne. I practiced and I had this great view over Albury. Mum and Dad lived on the top of one of the hills. And I'd just, every weekend I'd put on ABC Classic FM and hit record, and then I'd stand there with my saxophone and try and play along with whatever was happening on the thing, and I had no idea what the chords were or what the tunes were, and it was very much what I saw when I was playing was a green light or a red light or something in between. But then I started to learn more about theory and chords and that kind of oral thing, and that kind of frustrated me as well. That's what we were talking about before. When I'd have these green lights and all of a sudden I'd see a chord and I wouldn't be able to work out what to do with it straight away.
Yeah. There are people in New York who have an incredible ability to remember what just happened, to hear things on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know some people like that as well, and I think a lot of those people have perfect pitch as well. Well, some of those people have perfect pitch as well, and that's a memory-based thing as well, isn't it? That you can remember the pitch and.
I feel like it is memory. Yeah. I feel like it's all related.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to memorise tunes at the Con, and I guess you some of your teachers suggested you memorise some solos.
Yeah, that was all part of it.
Did you play in ensembles ever where you didn't know the changes, or that sort of? Did you ever play for the purpose of improving your ears and your ability to hear what was going on?
Yeah, and I still do. I tend
by just playing along with records.
I tend to go to if there's a tune that I want to learn, it's generally because I've heard it before. It's not because somebody's told me, put it in front of me. I'll generally go to the record and do it that way.
This might seem like a weird question, and you can just choose to talk about something else. But has your do you feel like that the culture around drinking has changed since you came to New York? Is that a bad question?
Around my drinking, or
Just like
what's
just in terms of the fact that there's a different culture in America, in New York. Anyway, I don't know what the rest of America's like. Can't really say. There's a different drinking culture here, and the fact that there's more music to see means that if you hang out with musicians, you're more likely to do it at the 55 bar, and are you more or less likely to drink
yeah,
at a gig
definitely.
than at a pub in the inner west of Sydney where there's no band on, you know?
Yeah, well, I think part of that has to do with the limited space that you have. Like in Australia, if it's your birthday, well, if it was my birthday, I'd invite everyone I knew around to my house, and we'd drink beer and have a barbecue and set a band up in the garage and have a funk jam or play some jazz or whatever happened.
You can do that here. I've done that here. The neighbours weren't very happy.
Yeah, but that, I think a lot of that has to do with like celebrating. Here is done outside. Everything, like you hear domestic arguments happening on the street, happening in the subway.
Here.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that happens at home in Sydney.
Right.
Everything happens kind of out of the house in New York, I feel. So you'll go to a bar to drink, or you'll go to a gig and have a beer, rather than drinking, rather than having people over to entertain at home.
So that's how it's changed for you. You're more likely to meet people outside.
Definitely.
In New York.
Yeah. And the way that I met most people was when I first moved to New York. I volunteered at the Jazz Gallery, and so I met a bunch of musicians through there. Got to drink a bit of beer with some of those musicians. Haven't really played much music with them, but know them at gigs when I see them around. Yeah, through that, and meeting people through the music when I worked at Sam Ash when I first came here. Yeah.
So you had some lessons here. Was there any difference between what Seamus Blake and Ben Wendell taught you to Cole and Dale, or was it all part of the same?
It's kind of similar,
thing?
just similar. It's just interesting. I just really wanted, when I speak to those guys, I'd like to know what their process was when they were getting it together, when they were really shedding and really working on their craft. And it's kind of similar to what I was doing already, but and what Dale and Cole and other people had shown me.
Yeah.
But just different approaches that they'd learnt.
Yeah, everyone's got a different approach.
Yeah, that's hopefully what makes people sound different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably good to get as many perspectives as you can. And
just the fact that I admired those guys and was happy to throw them $100 to hang out with them for an hour. And just kind of, talk to them about stuff.
And what was I going to say? I was going to say, well, first thing I'll ask, I'll sort of cut to the chase a bit. You've walked through the door of, you've moved yourself and your wife to New York, and now that you've walked through the door, have you thought about going back the other way?
Yeah.
And how will you know when it's time to go back?
I don't know. That's Kat and I never planned on being here forever. we both definitely want to move back to Australia. We've got great friends and close family ties back in Australia that we obviously miss. Yeah, I think I'm not sure when it'll be time to go. We actually came to New York accidentally, in a way. Kat thought that I really wanted to move here, and I thought that we really wanted to move here, and we kind of had told too many people that we both wanted to move here that we kind of didn't have a choice. And so we went for it, and it's worked out for 2.5 years so far.
You both found some employment fairly fast, right? That wasn't too hard.
Yeah, Kat got a job within 5 weeks, which was great. And her job has sponsored my visa as well. So
you both got an E3 visa, right?
yeah, she's got the E3, and then I'm the spouse.
And so that means you can do anything you like.
Yeah.
You don't have to do music if you don't want. You can work in McDonald's.
Yeah.
And so did you use a lawyer or?
No, her company has a lawyer that they use. So we didn't have to do any of that stuff. We just had to pay for our airfares and to leave the country and then hop back in again.
And how long did it take you to find some work? You found a job with Smash pretty quickly?
Yeah, I got work really quickly, but I then had to wait 3 months for my work permit.
Right.
So I kind of had my job at Sam Ash was on hold until my paperwork came through.
What was it like working there?
It was fun. The people there were really good.
Which store did you work in?
At the one at Times Square on 48th Street.
Oh.
Yeah.
Man.
I hated walking through Times Square every day.
That's a lot of people, and
yeah.
That's a lot of stimulation for a guy from Albury.
Yeah. But it was cool. I'd worked in a music store in Sydney, and I kind of knew.
Where did you work in Sydney?
At Saxon Woodwing.
Where's that? I don't know.
It's in Camperdown. It's pretty close to Sydney Uni.
Oh, okay. So it was a similar sort of thing. Were you in the saxophone department?
Yeah, it was the brass woodwind and sheet music.
Oh, that place. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
They've now moved to 34th Street, right? Yeah. Well, that's nice. They're nice people in there.
Yeah, that's. I really like all the people there.
Yeah.
It just.
It's a bit different to the keyboard section. No, that's dark. Those people are grumpy.
Yeah, it's just the money there was no good for me.
What's the minimum wage?
What was
Were
it?
you getting the minimum wage?
I was getting minimum plus commission.
And
it was like $7
an hour?
$7 an hour.
And if you sold a saxophone, how much commission would you get?
Depended on the saxophone.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you did that for a year or so?
No, it was about 6 months, nearly a little over 6 months.
And then had you really had enough, or you couldn't cope anymore? Or?
Yeah, I was just done with it.
You'd had enough.
Yeah.
And then what did you do then?
Worked in a couple of cafes.
Is that what you're doing now?
Yeah.
Where is it?
I've been in a few different cafes. I'm now working at one on 7th Avenue, between 17 and 18, called the Commons Chelsea.
In Manhattan? Is it gay people in there? Is it sort of a gay place?
Lots whatever. Yeah.
That's a very gay part of New York, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose.
Maybe further over, further west.
Maybe, I don't know.
Right, and so you're a barista, you make coffee?
Yeah, I'm a barista.
Do you think they should have had a barista course at the college?
I know a bunch of Sydney musicians who are baristas.
Quite a bunch of them now.
Yeah.
It should be a semester.
Like Mark Palmer's doing the same thing.
Mark Palmer, Craig Simon.
Yeah.
Should have a semester of teaching little kids.
Yeah.
And a semester of how to. Do you have to pack? Do you believe in packing hard, or is that? What do you do? You pack the beans in hard?
Not too hard.
Not too hard.
No.
See, everyone's got a different idea about that.
Yeah. But I always see, I think a bunch of guys have got home espresso machines now, and
Yeah.
they post their photos of their latte art up on.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's the it's the poor man's wine, I think, coffee.
Yeah.
So jazz musicians are all connoisseurs of coffee.
Yeah.
You can't really afford to be a connoisseur of Grange Hermitage red wine.
No.
It's not possible. But at least you can savour a cup of coffee.
Yeah. Coffee in the AM and Victoria Bitter in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, I lost my train of thought again. So you were doing quite a lot of gigs in Sydney, right? More than you were here.
Yeah, definitely.
And is there a difference between doing a gig in Sydney and doing a gig in New York?
Depends what the gig is. I was doing a handful of like weddings, and I had a really good mix of things in Sydney.
Yeah.
I was doing weddings. I did the Enormous Horns for 4 years, which was fun. Got to see different parts of the world with those guys. And that was a good kind of regular income for a while. I did a bunch of gigs with the Mothership. Yeah, I think I haven't really got into the corporate or that side of things over here.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a comparison as to how much they make. In terms of my own gigs that I put on, I was drawing a bigger crowd in Australia because I had a bigger network of friends, so I was making a little bit more bread. But it seems like it's kind of similar sort of door deal thing. Like I had never presented a gig at SEMA, so
what's the pay at Jazz Group now? How do you get paid?
I'm not sure what they're doing now. I've kind of been out of that for a while. When I was there, it was
$50 an hour or something.
No, I think it went up. It was
75.
Yeah, or $80 a man, depending on how big the group was. Yeah, I don't know what the story is now.
And did you have any goals when you came to New York?
My main one was to become a baritone player.
Oh yeah. It's one nice thing about New York that you can reinvent yourself, or just moving to any new city, you get that chance. So that was it for you? Yeah,
so back home I'd kind of been equally employed on Barry and tenor. And I just really wanted to concentrate on the baritone, because there'd been a bunch of Australian baritone players, but no one who'd really made it their main acts. Like there's great, like Bob Birtles is probably the closest I could think of. I know Don Burrows plays really beautiful baritone.
Lisa Farrott.
Yeah, Lisa, but she's over here. See, I never knew Lisa when she was in Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lisa. I know Paul Williamson plays a main baritone. Dale, yeah. Nick Bowd.
I remember that story of him having trouble with his sound one night at the Excelsior Hotel, and I was trying to help him get the mic up the sax a bit better, and we were twiddling with the EQ, and then eventually I looked in his thing and I said, "What's that?" Turned out there was like a 57 or something at the bottom of his baritone that had been in there for months, and it was this covered in goo, and I kind of got a napkin and pulled it out, and then he went,
and it started working.
Sounds great. Funny.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was kind of one of my goals over here, and every once in a while I get called for a tenor gig, which is great too. I still enjoy playing the tenor, but...
Are you playing the Barry with the Hipstones?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And who else are you playing with in New York?
I'm doing pretty regularly the Valerie Pomenorov big band.
Mm-hmm.
Bunch of other big bands. There's a couple of young guys. There's a young guy called Charlie Rosen
Mm-hmm.
who does some stuff for Broadway singers, like accompanying Broadway singers. Another young composer arranger called Kyle Afade,
Mm-hmm.
who's like Juilliard and MSM.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really great writer. He writes really hard music, but it's really good.
How did you meet these people?
Just there's a guy when I first moved to town. This guy Jason Marshall, baritone player.
Yeah, I used to play with him too.
Yeah, so I met him in Sydney when he came to town with the Mingus Big Band, and he put me in touch with some guys.
Did you find that the scene here welcoming, or was it what you
Yeah.
expected?
Yeah, it was. Can we stop for a minute? I've got to have a waz. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We'll just you do that, and
I'll just.
yeah.
Okay. You can ask that question again.
Yeah. We'll just pause it.